Dun, dun, dun. Oh, we are live. Maria Daniels, Jeff Travilla, Rise and Outshine. We are back. We've been recording these episodes. We started them up just before Thanksgiving this year because we're getting ready for our big conference that we did at the end of September of 2024. Maria Daniels, Wize Otero were in Pittsburgh with me at the Paduti Live Podcast Theater that you see behind me, doing 2 6-hour live streaming days. We had 24 podcasters where we flipped in a new podcaster every 30 minutes. We're going to do that again in 2025. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be better. There's going to be more things happening in Pittsburgh. So if Wize were here tonight, he would 100% tell you, get to Pittsburgh at the end of September. It's not a negotiable in Wize's eyes. And Maria, officially welcome back again.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. And you will also hopefully be in Pittsburgh. I'm not making plans for you.
Oh, well, Wize already made my plans. He has it already. But yeah, I will be there, and I'm excited. I was blessed to be able to be there last year, and I'm looking forward to this year.
Very good. So keep out on Paduti.com. Look for dates and deets for the live festival again. We'll be looking for more podcasters to grace our stage, to do their shows, just like the show you're about to see tonight. This is Rise and Outshine. This is the podcast that kind of supports everything that we've been working on. We've got a great show coming up all the way from Toronto. Jamal Mallings, over the weekend. Let's hear that theme song.
We're asking the experts. We're all on a mission to rise in the rankings and outshine the competition. Welcome to Rise and Outshine.
Yeah, welcome to Rise. Maria says I have to do the yeah. It's a non-negotiable.
Yeah, the jazz hands.
Exactly.
If you learn 2 things from the show, 1, you got to be in Pittsburgh at the end of September, and 2, when I do the theme song, I have to go yeah.
Yep.
Jamal, welcome to the show. Calling in from Toronto tonight, over the weekend podcast. We're excited to see what's coming up in the next half hour.
Well, thank you very much for having me, you guys. It's another day in paradise for me. I just try to bring out all the vibe and the energy that I have all the way up in the Great White North. Even though we're here and even though it's cold, we're looking at like easily right now, probably -4 Fahrenheit. So it's pretty darn cold. But being inside allows me to do everything that I want, which is, for example, doing this podcast right now.
Well, we appreciate you using Fahrenheit because I would have no idea that in Celsius.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
Well, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about over the weekend. What was the concept behind it? How did you get started? And how did you fall in love with podcasting?
So realistically, when it comes to those 3 questions, actually, firstly, I would say that my show is a disclosure on Western entertainment, music, and culture. So long story short, we try to break down what is a person in their craft and how do they get to that way. So a lot of people always ask, I want to be a DJ, I want to be an artist, I want to be a comedian, but they don't know how to actually get to that point. And they have people that they follow and like all the time. So my job is to find those people that they follow and like and just get the breakdown on their actual bigger story, more like their hero's journey even. So essentially I ask them the bearing questions, ask them the questions that I need, kind of pulling some legs here and there just to actually get, how did they get to where they are? Not to mention make them a little more human. So I humanize the character and I humanize the people that I actually speak to, because once again, they were in your place. They were at one point a nobody, if that, lack of better words. And now what are they doing? They're, selling billboards, they're doing Grammys. They're the people that we follow all the time. And it makes it really easy for me to speak to those people because I'm a very likable person, I'm a very outgoing person, and I almost can never stop talking. So it makes it easy for me to actually engage in a conversation with a lot of my guests. And when it comes to podcasting in general, I actually got way into it at the beginning of 2020, around actually the early spring, I would say. Reason being is that at that point, I had so much more free time on my hands to do a lot more other things. So as I was doing these other things and these other works, what I was actually doing was also listening to podcasts and gaining information and learning knowledge. And I was able to do that simultaneously while working. So I just end up being hand in hand with me. And after years and years and years of doing it, now I'm going on 5 years of just listening to podcasts while I'm working literally 8 hours a day. I've become I've become so accustomed to it that I said I needed to make my own. So it's a different story on how a lot of people get it done, essentially, probably the same beginning. However, at this point now, I just have it on my own terms. So I talk to people I want to talk to. I have the genre that I want to listen to. I have the niche that I have because I actually enjoy listening and I enjoy having conversations with all the guests that I bring along.
Oh, that's amazing. And how many shows do you think you've done so far since you jumped into this?
As of now, closer to 20, I would say. I had a lot in the first season, and the first season was me trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do. However, on top of just the interview format, I also have these other formats essentially coming out, which would be me doing having full-on regular conversations with people, so more off-the-cuff conversations. On top of that, too, we're going to have little skits similar to the Keegan and Michael Key skits of the past. A lot of the actual ways to bring other guests in and bring other viewers in, not just to help myself, but this is to help everybody that gets on the podcast. I really just want everybody to see it. And the whole conversation and the stories that people bring really actually resonate with me, which means it should resonate with a lot of people as well.
If you were to think about this podcast 2 or 3 years from now, all the things that you're building, all these seeds that you're planting, what do you see it being a few years down the road?
At the end, I would say not even at the end. It's now adolescent. When it gets to its adolescent phases and adolescent years, I want it to be more of a talk show, similar to all the talk shows of the '90s. However, it would be more in the podcast format where we're just hanging out 4 or 5 people on 1 or 2 topics, jumping around from those 2 topics, but also having fun and enjoying ourselves and laughing and throwing in that comedic skits here, throwing in the comedic laugh here. Maybe during, instead of having us talk for 25 minutes, there'll be 5 minutes of me having a tea with somebody else or me on a vacation somewhere else. And I'm showing these people, this is how you can enjoy your money, save some money on a trip without having to actually spend this or do that. So I'm just trying to fill in the gaps, kind of like a TV show, but instead of there being different advertisements for different companies, every time there would be an advertisement, it would just be me doing something else or doing some type of different course, some different type of job. Maybe I'll even start bringing in other micro podcasts in between, kind of once again showing and showcasing other people's works at the same time instead of my own.
Yeah, very nice. I mean, that's the beauty of podcasting. Its potential is really limited by your imagination and all these things that you're planting now, and then you're seeing them, you're envisioning them 2-3 years down the road. Like it's going to be exciting to see where does this lead you to. And so these are great things to have. A great pre-interview so far. Wize, anything you'd like to add before we jump in? Well, Wize, they got you muted.
Be forgetting. But no, I'm really excited to see what he's gonna showcase. So
awesome. For those of you watching at home, we have a scoring sheet where we go through and we're looking for different things tonight. We're looking for the audio quality, the production value. Does the content match expectation? All the things that we talked about leading into this, is that what this show's about? Sometimes we have shows that come on and they tell us what they're about, and then they spend 10 minutes talking about their grocery shopping. So, it's important that you're delivering on the expectation that you set for the audience. That's one of the things that we score on. And then let me go, let's see, can I do. So let me go to the scoring here. The audio quality, the engaging host. We already have some votes coming and people are already voting for you. The quality of the content matching expectation, production quality, and then what comes to your mind when you listen to this podcast. People are already taking in your stories, your energy, your music have already resonated with people, and we're going to get more of the votes coming in as the show goes on. So as you're watching at home, scan this QR code or look at the bottom of the screen. You can go to Menti and type in 4889-6304 to cast your votes for the Over the Weekend podcast. We're going to go ahead and turn it over to Jamal. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we go?
No, I think I'm ready to go.
Sounds good. Everybody, this is the Over the Weekend podcast with Jamal Maulings. Take it away.
Thank you very much. I think we can start first with beginning to say thank you everybody for coming along. This would actually be a dawn of another segment. I would call this one more of a solo segment. The reason why it'd be a solo segment is because I would just be talking about my journeys and my stories and things that happened to me in the past that also could eventually blossom into an actual full-fledged episode, essentially. When it comes to it, you probably already noticed that I'm a very energetic guy. Not to mention, I've done a lot in my days already, which also would, in my opinion, think that it would actually fit into an episode and fit into here. So this is why I'm on to bring that in, essentially. So to begin, I would say that my whole journey into this music business and music brand would be through hosting parties in 2019. So I actually used to be a tour manager as well as a production assistant, and I actually hosted events inside of the city. However, when the world came to quote unquote an end, that's when all those events that I actually hosted for all these companies decided to fizzle out. I decided at that point, instead of letting them fizzle out and let them die, I wanted to actually continue what I was doing, even if I had to be doing it on my own, essentially. So what I actually started with was hosting events inside of a safe location. Everybody's enjoying themselves safely as well. However, what we're doing is enjoying the music, enjoying camaraderie, enjoying being together, only because that was actually taken away from us. So similar to, I guess, a futuristic version of Footloose, it was just me hosting events that everybody can be together and actually enjoy music and still hang out like they would at a bar or at a festival or where have you. But it would be like at the beach, for example. So somewhere outside, for example. Make it easy for everybody to come by, make it super simple, make it free. And after about 2 years or so of doing that, and I did it, I would say every weekend. It was hilarious. Like every single weekend, I'd be going to these random locations and I'd be putting in like GPS locations, like the, latitude and longitude. That way people would be able to secretly find out where these events would be inside of the city. And once you show up and there's a whole bunch of people that you know. And that kept on going more and more and more to the point where I was hosting events that were like 50 and 200 people, but we're all together doing the same thing. We're once again just hanging out casually, we're listening to music, being together, and just actually becoming friends more and more through all the events that we hosted, to the point where now, being in 2022 times, it would actually evolve into true full-fledged events. So once the gates were starting to open a little bit more, it allowed us to actually enjoy our time together more often. So it went from actually hosting events to hosting events at different larger locations. So like a castle, for example. We went to Victoria, BC, which is the opposite side of this country, and we hosted events there as well. Just again, having people come together because they all like the same music. And it sounds so crazy to do that at this time, not to mention to do that at all, but this is something that people have been doing for a very long time. It's just, I decided to keep it going, basically. After I realized how all of that was happening, we decided to go even further. So we went to places like Hawaii. So I went to Hawaii. We did the exact same thing. We actually toured Hawaii, going into 2 different islands. And through those 2 times, we actually ended up going up, I think it's called Mount Kalua at this point in time, to end up going to a dispensary farm, like a weed farm of some sort, hosting an event there. We were there for about 4 days. It almost felt like paradise. The sun set at the same time every day at 6:30, and every time at night, that's always when everybody wanted to come and have camaraderie and hang out together. This whole events spanned from different locations and different places, to the point where we decided that I almost can't do this alone. So I ended up hiring more people and more people to actually enjoy the festivities, as well as be able to work along my side to host these events. And at one point, this is getting closer to 2023 now, I decided that this whole business is so large at this point now that I want to actually record this for a longer period of time. And that's kind of when I decided. I've been listening to podcasts for the last 3 years. and I never actually created my own. So I decided at that point that I needed to create my own actual podcast. So I really tried to process it in my mind exactly what I wanted to do and what type of event I wanted to create from that. And I thought that I love music. I've been doing events this whole time. So how would I just record the people that are at these events and see what they think? So the years came by and I started talking to artists and producers and regular goers of my events and asking them questions and seeing what they liked, what they wanted. And a lot of them like infotainment. They want to be entertained, but they also want to know what's going on. They also want to have fun at the same time. So I decided that if I'm going to be going to the route of just podcasting at this point, I need to be able to figure out how to attract all these human beings without having to host any events at all. And that is actually through just me being me, really. A lot of people in my friend group and my social group know me as the person that brought everybody together. And I'm not tooting my own horn or anything, but that's exactly what happens essentially. That I do speak on my own, and I allow people to meet each other and create bonds that last forever essentially. So be that as it may, I decided that opening up a podcast dedicated towards the music that we love, the music that brought us all together, would once again do that same thing and revigorate and reshine all over again in a different sort of lens. That happening, at least having one or two actual artists that I started to record and get their own story and get their own feedback, I decided to then branch out to other people. So I started talking to models, I started talking to comedians, and I just wanted to get the bigger picture of what they did and how they got to where they are. So, be that as it may, I realized that I can't actually speak to every single person. I can't speak to every single genre because unfortunately you're speaking to no genre at that point. So it took that time for me to think, you know what, the next thing I need to do now is figure out what I'm talking about, who I'm talking to. And once again, I remembered that I've loved electronic music. So it's going to be easy for me to just talk about that as long as I can continue and allow that to be my go-to at this time. So fast forward once again, we went to South America. We actually went to Colombia to do the exact same thing. So we networked with a lot of people. We traveled. I actually got lost in the forest. Believe it or not, I got lost in the jungle for about 2 hours. And that alone was its own blog piece. That whole journey being there for about 28 days was its own actual episode on my podcast as well. And that was a little bit off the cuff because it was more a Canadian in a not Canadian place that's not America. So it's also relatable to other people as well because not a lot of people have gone to South America and a lot of people want to hear that. And that's where a lot of the traveling portion comes in. A lot of the solo stories come in as well because between 2015 till now, so for the last 10 years, there's a lot of events and a lot of things that I've done. Once again, I've traveled across the country to go to music festivals. I work at music festivals as well. And those are stories on its own that I can actually bring out and say over and over again. And people would actually listen to because that's just what the niche loves. They just want to find out what to do next inside of their own love triangle and love events. So the next events that I would happen to host would be a lot of just my birthday parties, and a lot of birthday parties that I personally would host would be on a cottage somewhere, on a big farm somewhere. And from there, we all enjoy the festivities together. That way, it's just more of a connection on us enjoying each other's time and us being together for the next event that we go to. And after all that, after just being separated from all these human beings and coming back together after 4 years, what we do now, all I do is just sit back and I will look, and people come to me and people come and ask me about the events that we host and what do we do. And I just now consult that whole portion of my life because now I'm dedicated into just straight up podcasting. At this point now, I just speak to artists of any type of sort, artists of any type of genre, from any type of country, just as I just want to hear what their hero story is. What got them to where they are today? Because there's a whole bunch of people that always want to know, and I want to be the guy to figure that out and let everybody know as well. So if you guys are ready to go on a journey and want to know what happened over the weekend, come check me out. That's the podcast.
Awesome. We have votes coming in right now. For those of you watching at home, cast your votes. Go into Menti and type in the code at the bottom of the screen. This is the Over the Weekend podcast with Jamal Maulings from Toronto. We got to hear a little bit of the backstory going into this, and then you gave us 10 minutes of what to expect on the show and how you came to this. What is your backstory and all of this? It was pretty interesting. Maria and Wize.
Yeah, it was interesting for me to see how he traveled. Like he took the show and on the road. It's like that's something that that I would personally like to do is be able to take stuff in my mind all over the world and record from different locations. So that's a really unique aspect. Not everyone gets to do that with their podcasts.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I love the idea of the connections and bringing people together, the music and it was kind of like a vibe. Like we're bringing people together, we're connecting people in a time when people need connection. Was a great part of what I took away from part of your story.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, just the idea of just the story and the connection. And I mean, yeah, I'm with Wize. Hawaii would be pretty cool. But I do think it's the stories and the connections, because that really, at the end of the day, no matter what genre podcast it is, it's what it's about. It's about that story. It's about that connection.
Yeah. So, Jamal, are you ready to see how the scores came in? We have people coming in. We have it looked like we had 11, 12 votes come in already. Last minutes, get them in before we go to the main screen here. We're going to share this data we've been collecting. And we want people to, this is honest feedback. It's always done with love and respect. We do this so that you find your strengths, you find your weaknesses. Where do you need to improve? Where are some areas that you're stronger than others on? Typically anything over like 7 is kind of like the medium. Like if 7s are meeting expectations, if anything higher, 8s, 9s, 10s, you're doing better than the average person. The 4, 5s, and 6s. There's some areas there that probably need some improvement. Let's go in. I'm going to reveal the scores. Here are how you scored. 8.1 overall. This is very strong. Some of the areas that are really strong, the engaging host. That's great for you, Jamal. You're resonating with people. People liked hearing your stories. So the 8.6 on the host, very strong. That your content was great, and the content matches the expectation. Those are all things that skewed over the average. Now, this is an environment, maybe you're not live streaming, so the production quality, the audio quality, maybe not having a microphone, those skewed a little bit lower than the 8.1. But on this show, an 8.1 overall is a strong score. So you're seeing these scores now. I don't know what your expectations were going into this. How do you feel seeing how the people reacted to you?
Well, the only thing I probably could say is for sure the audio quality as well as the backgrounds, only because I haven't had it. I'm in a new house now, so I have to set up my new studio, and the new studio is not fully set up. So I thought it'd probably be better to not show you guys a half-made setup and to have the good lighting and everything instead than the latter. However, I'm really happy to see that my ideas are still concrete and it's still the same thing. I guess translates with everybody.
Yeah, and again, that's kind of a testament to the honesty of the scoring. So, like, yes, you did skew a little bit lower on audio quality, but you're also acknowledging, okay, I'm not in my place where I would normally record my podcast. So that's a fair score, I think, from the audience, and a great reaction too. And if you look behind the scores, you can kind of see the plot of all the scores. So so the audio range from anywhere from 5s up to 10. So you can see that little blue mountain in the background. That's how all the votes came in. So it's a pretty cool little way to see, like, how did you score overall? So great score. Anything over 8s, anything over 7 is really strong on this show. So very nice with the 8.1s. Let's go to that word cloud. And this one is the same amount of people who voted. The whole show, they can just keep adding words as they are inspired or entertained by you. So let's see. We had 51 total come in on here and look at the things that you're strongest on: events, weekend, music, Toronto, energy, story. Excuse me, vibes. A couple of emojis even popped in there. The music with headphones, and then the connecting and the community that we talked about. Solopreneur, positive, together, Hawaii, carry on after COVID. Oh, excuse me. I've been talking for like 2 hours a night. The tour manager, the podcast, secret events, infotainment. Seeing some of these words, these kind of resonate with how you feel the show was about tonight.
Yeah, 100%. Especially the idea of the events as music weekend was literally the name inside of my show, and infotainment is one of the biggest ones because I'm trying to slowly bring entertainment into the conversations that I'm having, because the conversations that I have is a form of education. Alongside lack of better words, people come to it because they're trying to learn something, but I also want to make sure it's fun. So I just want to make sure it's entertaining, and that's why right now the energy really works. And I've been possessing this strong energy and being able to emanate it for a very long time now. So it totally makes sense.
Yeah, I do. Fun is in there too. Under interesting in the top, fun in the upper left about 11 o'clock. So yeah, the words that you want to project of the show, the audience is giving back to you. Okay, this is what we're taking from the show. So a lot of people find the word cloud like the most valuable thing, because you're getting that feedback back, or are people taking away the right messaging? Are they getting the right feelings from you? So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this experience. Jamal, before we go for tonight, let us know, how can people connect with you? How can they learn more about the Toronto scene? What's the best way to reach out and hear more?
Super simple. You can just look me up online. Anything over the weekend. Instagram's over the weekend.podcast. You can go on YouTube. You can go on Spotify. You can go on Apple Music. You can go on Amazon Music. Like, it don't matter. Anything that you want, you can actually follow me there. And you can see any of the good things that I have done there. You can go straight to my personal profile afterwards. It's actually there, Peanut Butter and Jamal as well. And that shows a little bit more of what I do on my own time. But when it comes to it, realistically, you're just going to have to find me over the weekend.
Awesome. And my two favorite co-hosts, who will also be in Pittsburgh at the end of September 2025, Maria Daniels, Wize Otera. Maria, let's start with you. How can people connect and find you?
You can find me through my show, Successfully Chaotic, or on Facebook at Maria Daniels.
And to Wize.
You can find me on all major platforms, Stuck in My Mind podcast. I'm on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. You can check my website at stuckinmymindpodcast.com.
And I'm Jeff on behalf of the Rise and Outshine podcast from the Paduty Live Podcast Theater in downtown Tarentum, PA. Paduty.com, PODUTY.com. Let's hear that theme song.
We're asking the experts, we're all on a mission to rise in the rankings and outshine the competition. Welcome to Rise and Outshine.
Yeah.